This is called The Teaching Philosophy of Gary Arms. I'm Gary Arms. At my college, professors are asked by the powers that be to create a document called My Teaching Philosophy. Over the years, I've read a lot of these. My favorite was one sentence long, and it was written by a nun. And she said her number one goal was to love her students, all of them. And I'm still thinking about that. Since I'm a changeable, moody sort of guy, it's not a simple task for me to set down my philosophy of teaching. I teach literature courses and writing and public speaking. And my philosophy about teaching these courses changes from year to year. It's a thing made out of fog. I do have some basic advice, some tricks I like to use. Number one, help your students. I like to tell mine they pay me good money to help you, so get your money's worth. Talk to me, come see me, send me a message, make an appointment, help your students. My foundational belief about teaching is that most people can learn almost anything, even, Paradise Lost and Chaucer in the Middle English, if it is broken down into small, understandable bits. Some of the literature I teach is simple. You can read it in one go and pretty well get it. Other things are not simple. These difficult works can be understood, but the teacher must lead the students by the hand. We professors know a ton about our topics. We have spent decades studying them. Students are reading it for the first time, and it can be difficult. The personal touch matters. That's something I believe. Students respond to someone who knows their names. Good teachers talk to students individually. They show up early, talk briefly to the students. Boy, I found that if you've got a student that seems like they have a really horrible attitude and that kid happens to be there early, just come early and go over there and talk to that kid. And don't talk about the class, don't bawl the kid out, don't say you're concerned about the kid's attitude. Just say, how you doing, what's up, are you into sports, and sometimes that's all it takes to turn that kid around. You've recognized that student as a real human being, someone you find interesting, and boy, that can do a world of good. Sometimes, about problem students, I ask, my future teachers, students that are planning to become teachers, I say to them, well, what do you do if a student demands your attention? Give them some. Give the student some attention. It's free. Students are more likely to work hard in a class conducted by someone they believe knows them and cares about them. Don't bore the students. I don't want to be one of those professors that students consider well organized but dull. I don't want to look around and see that half my students have fallen asleep. That buzzword, active learning. One of my friends from the education department likes to say that active learning does not mean hands-on activities like games and races. It means teaching that activates the brain of the student. I roam around the room when I teach. I approach the desk of any student who appears in danger of yawning. Sometimes I let my voice get loud. Other times I whisper. I tell stories. In class, I ask students to write about the topic that we're going to discuss before we discuss it. That way, when I call on them, they're ready to go, they've got something. I make them read out loud. I make them read poetry out loud. That's kind of scary. I have them act in small groups. Acting, man, that's really scary. I have been known to make students write a play and then act it out for the class. I believe it is okay to scare students occasionally. Tell the truth. This is kind of frightening for the teacher, I know. But I decided when I began my teaching career, I would tell students what I believe to be true, even if it is controversial. I also took a vow that I would admit it when I have no idea what the answer is to the question somebody just asked me. And I would admit it when I realized, finally that something I said was just plain wrong. And I would thank them when they correct one of my mistakes. Do not overwhelm students. Do not preach at them. Do not tyrannize the class. Okay, but don't pretend to be perfect. Respect your students. They too have brains, they have feelings, but tell them what you actually believe. They can decide for themselves if they agree. Teach important stuff. I believe that literature is intrinsically fascinating because it is about important topics. This is an advantage that comes to anyone who teaches literature. Long after they were written, the plays, poems, and novels we teach remain fascinating because they are about subjects close to our hearts. Love, violence, God, the struggle for power, cowardice, and sex. Literature is about our deepest values and our most terrifying fears. When I walk into a classroom, I try never to forget that we are going to talk about something deeply important. I hope to be up to the task. Skills. Like reading, writing, and speaking are basic communication skills. When I teach writing, I know I am not wasting anyone's time. Speaking in public is also a basic skill, as valuable as the ability to write. I once heard something about mountain climbers, people who climb impossibly high mountains like Mount Everest. You might think they start at the bottom and they just keep going, perhaps sleeping occasionally until they get to the top. That's not how they do it. The air keeps getting thinner and thinner and thinner. They will pass out and die if they just keep going. What they have to do is they go up as far as they can, and then they have to retreat a ways, not to the bottom, just down a ways until they get acclimatized, until they can breathe at that level. Then they go up again. Then they have to go back down a ways. That's how I believe all skills can be taught, and that's how students learn. They go up, and then they go back. That's just going to happen. It just is the way people's brains work. You learn, you seem to forget what you learned, then you learn it again. You go up, you go up, you go back, you go up, you go back. We zigzag up the mountain. Writing is one of the most complicated tasks humans do. It is more difficult than walking or driving a car, more difficult than walking on your hands. I have learned that even the highly educated are kind of anxious about their writing skills. My colleagues, almost all of them, have PhDs, and they still need advice. One of my core beliefs about teaching is that one of the two most important moments in teaching involves eye contact. It is at that moment when something flashes back and forth between the eyes of the student and the teacher. When I say eyes, I really mean minds. It is at that moment when two minds find something together. They figure the thing out together. For that moment to occur, the teacher and the student both have to be listening to one another. They have to be speaking to one another. They both have to learn. A really cool teaching day is when the professor walks back to his office thinking, man, I never knew that before. There are other moments, intense learning moments. These other moments do not occur in a classroom, and you can't really test anybody to find out if they occurred at all. They occur when the student is all alone. Sometimes I think they occur 5 years after the class ended. They are moments when something partially learned is finally understood. I mean, really understood. Teaching and learning oftentimes are slow. Someone may attempt to teach me something today, and it may seem like I failed to learn it. But it may be that years from now, one night I jump up and I yell, I get it. I finally get that thing. Keep that in mind when you feel despair, when you feel you did not get the lesson across. Some lessons, really important ones, take years to absorb. Some profound lessons take decades. They are lessons worth learning. Passionate example. I hope it does not sound egotistical to say it, but in some strange way, I want to embody literature. I believe teachers are examples of what they teach, of what a specific study does to a person. I have spent my adult life studying the art of writing. I am an example of the effect the study of literature and writing can have on a person. When I think of the professors who most thrilled and inspired me, the ones who changed my life for the better, it was the ones who were passionate and well informed, the ones who made me know they cared about me, listened when I spoke, and took me seriously enough to tell me that I was flat wrong. I was fortunate to have many inspiring teachers. I hope I follow in their footsteps. Help your students. The personal touch matters. Don't bore everybody to death. Tell the truth. Teach important stuff. You know what? Just do like that old nun recommended. Love your students, everyone.